for joining me today. It's Brian Gubernick, and welcome to the No Days Off podcast, where we believe that every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. Today, I'd like to discuss the benefits of black hat thinking. Black hat thinking. Now, I think most of us have probably heard about the black hat or black hat thinking, but let's just make sure we're all on the same page. When someone is referred to as the black hat in a conversation or in a decision-making process, it usually means that this person is playing the role of devil's advocate. Somebody that is poking holes in maybe the blind or even calculated optimism that the plan or conversation presents. The job of the black hat is to prompt or create more critical thinking, to create maybe some caution, and to identify potential problems and or pitfalls. So if someone is wearing the black hat in the discussion, they're likely focusing on pointing out all the things that could go wrong, all the possible issues, the downsides of a potential or particular decision or idea. This is insanely valuable. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because I am the black hat. In most conversations, I do tend to go that direction. And it's by no means because I'm not optimistic. I'm very optimistic. But I've got this natural, analytical, prove it to me, prove it's going to work. And once you do so, once I ask all the questions and try to poke holes and you pass go, well, then it seems like a really viable plan. Once I give you all the possible challenges and we can answer all of them, well, then I think we can consider moving forward. I'm not saying I'm right when I do this. I'm just simply saying that there's a lot of value to someone who's constantly poking holes. So I'm talking about black hat today because I think it's a really timely conversation. Why? Well, many of us are, again, we've been talking about business planning a bit over the past couple of weeks. Many of us are trying to map out what our next quarter or next year entails. And as we develop these plans, we have a tendency to develop them from a rather optimistic vantage point. And the plans may make a ton of sense, but I think it's especially important to start poking holes. So some questions I like to ask, some things I want you to think about in your own world right now, in business or in personal. Questions that you could be asking yourself. Things I tend to ask a group or ask myself is, hey, if something was to go wrong, what might it be? I know this plan looks great and things are likely to go in a positive direction, but if something was to go sideways or go wrong, what might it be? If production is not what you thought it would be, what would cause that? If so-and-so who you told me is so incredibly important in your world was to leave your world, was to take a job elsewhere, why would that be? If the market responds differently. Like you've outlined a plan based on whatever market you're sitting in and what you're projecting as the market. If the market was to be completely different than what you just described, what would you do about it? Now, you see a theme to all of these questions. And again, I love asking them because whatever the answer is to these questions, well, now you could plan around these things. So for example, one of the questions I asked, if so-and-so was to leave your world, who you told me was so important, if they were to leave your company, what would you do? How would you react? Why would that be? Why would they have left your company? And you may give me an answer like, oh, well, they leave because there was a financial opportunity that was bigger than what I presented. Okay, great answer. I love that. So knowing that is a risk, you're bringing it up for some reason. Maybe it's something you've thought about or something that's been discussed in the past. If you know that to be the case, then what should we do right now that maybe curbs that risk a bit? I'm not necessarily saying you should pay someone more, but is there an incentive that you can come up with right now and proactively provide so that you're not worried about that risk anymore? Is there some sort of carrot we could put out there that goes away in the event they leave? There's so many different things you can start thinking around or start doing, but you got to think around it first. If the market was to react differently than what you've projected in your plan, what would you do about it? Well, I think that's a really good question, right? So let's think through what are the other types of markets we can experience, and let's define right now how we're going to respond. Now, the likelihood of needing that information or that plan is relatively low, but in this example, at least we've now thought it out. So if and when it does in fact happen, we already have a plan in place. So you can see where I'm going with this. I love to be optimistic in my planning, but I want to poke holes and figure out what could go wrong, identify those things today, and then address them immediately, like address them now so I'm never, ever coming from behind. Now, will a black hat always identify a risk? Of course not. Like there's always things that are going to be unforeseen. But the idea here is to ask as many questions or come up with as many challenges as you can and solve for them, in an efficient way so you're never caught off guard. Some great black hat questions in addition to the ones I was asking. If you're talking about risk assessment, maybe the question is, what are the potential risks associated with this decision? What aren't we thinking about? Or maybe, how might external factors impact the success of this project? If we're talking about costs and budgeting, what are the potential financial drawbacks to this? What are the unforeseen costs? What costs are we not thinking about right now? Or how might this decision impact our budget in the short and in the long term? When we're thinking about our competition, how might our competitors react to this move? What countermeasures might they take? How could we actually be beat? How could they respond quickly and outperform us? Are there potential negative consequences in the marketing? Like, is there something about our marketing message we're not seeing? When I think about customer impact, how might customers react negatively to this change? Like I know we all suspect that it's going to be a positive reaction, but is there anything here that would cause them to react negatively that we haven't discussed yet? Are there any potential concerns or dissatisfaction points for our customers? And maybe a couple other ones for you. When we think about employee impact, we think everybody's going to be positive about this, but how might employees be affected by this decision? Are there potential morale or productivity issues that could arise? So these questions go on and on and on. I think you get, the idea here, and you probably have many questions of your own. All I'm trying to do today is get you thinking from a different perspective, wearing a different hat that is not natural for most of us. While I described it is a more natural behavior for me, I know that black hat behavior or black hat thinking is not natural for most. Some other hats, and this all comes from the six, what's it called? The six thinking hats. The six thinking hats, which is a book by, or a method, I think, that was introduced by Edward de Bono. Each hat represents a different thinking style. And again, the black hat is the one that's associated with critical thinking and caution and identifying risks. We all kind of have a hat that we gravitate towards. Most of us don't go towards the black. I want you to start incorporating some black hat thinking into your world. And if this is not something you're capable of, the question for you then is, well, who in your world do you need to bring in that can challenge your thoughts, your ideas, your decisions? That's all I have for you today. The No Days Off podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. So let's get after it.